Hi, folks. We just thought we'd jump on, Maree and myself, to talk about something which is fundamental to all that we do in our work, and we think in terms of how people live their lives. And it's commonly known as, amongst people who understand this work, as the five-element theory. Now,
Oh, excuse me, Jeff.
yes,
You haven't introduced me and our business.
I said you're Maree. Good grief. Oh, everyone knows because they're watching this channel now. They know it's the Nine Pillars Success Hub,
Yeah,
and they know your face because sometimes you come on and help, sometimes you don't. And I know we would like to see more of it, wouldn't we? That's for sure. But anyway, let's jump in and move on here because this is something a really good topic for us, and we love this topic because it's
It's
the
something very
foundation.
passionate to us
It
as
is
well.
foundation to everything we do. So what is this five-element theory? And let's jump straight in because this is one of the series of videos we're going to put out in the next little while, going more into this as we go. So bear with me while I share the screen and have these funny things happen. I want that there, I want that there. And so hopefully you can now see the screen. And it's using a PowerPoint. Sorry, we're not tech savvy people. We're just ordinary folk who like to do what we do. But we're talking about the five-element theory, aren't we, Maree? Almost for your nickname then.
No nicknames
No
today.
nicknames today. Which is in a sense the balance of yin and yang, or the polarities of life itself. And you're thinking, oh, this sounds a bit interesting and strange, but it's not really, because we're talking about things people do in everyday life, every day of their life, without even realizing what they're doing. Because we're talking about a body of work or knowledge or wisdom for thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, but lost even to the modern Chinese sometimes now. It's a shame. So let's have a look at this here. We're talking about in the middle, that little round book is called the I Ching, or Book of Changes. It's where it all started. And there's quite history to it. We won't go into it today. And of course, everybody would recognize that symbol in the middle, the symbol of yin and yang. But it's different though, isn't it, Maree? What's different about it?
Oh, I'm sure the colours, the black and white's on the opposite side. This symbol here is for the southern hemisphere. When you see it the other way around, it's for the northern hemisphere. But we do go into that in our other videos as well.
We will, because that's a very important topic in terms of how we differentiate behaviours and homes and health, etc. But we'll get to that. The point of the slide here is to set the scene. So we're talking about a source, the original source. Now, the East and the West do it differently. So for a second, let's go west before east, okay? Because and then much later in the game, of course.
But who came first?
Who was on second? So, and way past when obviously this thing was written, there's a guy called Richard Wilhelm. That's him there between the two arrows on the right. He found this Book of Changes. I say found because it already was there, and he was fascinated by what it meant and what it talked about. It took it back to to Carl Jung, the guy underneath that. And those of you who have done some reading and know a bit about the motivation theory and personality theory would know that Carl Jung is seen as the father of all this. And in terms of the West, he was the first person to start using the I Ching in his own way to talk about how these elements relate into humans and the behavior of humans. But sadly, along the way, one of the elements got lost, and you'll find that almost 100% of the modern profiling systems out there only ever talk about the base of 4, which is a shame because that's 20% of a person missing in their makeup. But that's the West, and there's more to it. Of course, the West has lots of things like there's various medicines, it's exercise, yogas, military government, all these things which the I Ching has a source in, but that's for another day. On the East, Maree, which is where our favours lie, the I Ching led to obviously things like classic Chinese medicine, which later became known as traditional Chinese medicine in the 1950s. The 4 pillars of destiny, which Maree is passionate about completely, but that's not for today, but it's part of what we talk about. Feng Shui, which most people know about, but probably don't know the real intent of Feng Shui. And these are things which all came from I Ching through the five-element theory and into our modern world. Sadly, most of what is on the East is known to few by comparison to what is accepted by the West.
And I think what people are trying to do these days, they don't know the full extent of Eastern philosophies going back thousands of years. So what we've actually done and are qualified in is more the Eastern tradition, bringing that into today's life. So in the various ways as well.
Which is interesting. We talk about Chinese in the old days, not Chinese modern, and here's Maree's an Italian talking about Chinese. Go figure. It's a modern world. It's amazing. However, let's move on now because I want to start talking about this because time is. There we go. said before that Carl Jung, etc., knocked down to 4. There are 5. There are 5 elements. There is wood, fire, earth, metal, water. Okay, and we're going to mention what that means shortly. So they also attach to a season: spring, summer, late summer, autumn, and winter. Now you might think, well, that's a no-brainer, but what's that got to do with anything? I mean, what's wood supposed to mean in terms of us living our lives? That's what we're talking about, isn't it, today? So keep in mind there are 5, and if you don't address all 5 in its entirety and in connection together, you run the risk of never really understanding who you are, or a relative or a friend could be, or is.
I think what we do in when we do go through all the 5 elements individually, this also relates to our cycles. We need to know the cycles of the planet, the solar system, and all that sort of stuff first. And we always start with spring coming in, and at the moment we're in our summer in the southern hemisphere. So our cycles down here in the southern hemisphere are different to the northern hemisphere. They are in their winter. So when we talk about a season right now, we have to be in mind of where we are always living at this time.
Yeah. So let's examine this in more detail, because we don't want to take too much time today, because we're going to go through these separately as separate videos, like I mentioned before. So keeping in mind there are 5. Let's look at them as actual elements in nature itself: wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. Now, it's important to know that, yes, as Maree will tell you straight away, because she's the Feng Shui queen of the world, and she knows that, you know, the original source of all this for the Chinese was about how and where and when they grew their crops. They knew if they understood the land and nature's flow, they could get the most effective outcome for their own well-being. Is that not correct?
That's right.
Okay, and they're very clever people, because they knew that, you know, if they literally mirrored the cycles of nature. So basically put that, of course, here, you know, and I know, and Maree knows, that we're not really talking about wood as a tree. We're talking about wood as a state of change, or a metaphor. Because what the Chinese have always done in their health, in Chinese medicine, etc., is play with metaphors. They're a great storytelling history, right? Which is why it's so different to the West, who are so clinical. The East is much more story, metaphor, enlightening in its own way.
And between you and I, and everyone else, Jeff and I see things differently. Our element mix, which we go into a little bit later, we are totally different. So how I see things, I look at the cycles. When I explain to people their cycles, I actually go into the cycles of the earth. Jeff likes, because he's psychology based, he likes to go into the mind and all that sort of stuff.
Behavior and
yes.
Mind, yeah.
So our thinking is totally different, because we are totally different types of people. Especially
when you apply it across, we're going to show you right now how it applies to a person's lifestyle or mindset, etc., their home and environment and work, and their health, because all 3 are connected. None can be isolated by themselves, and the elements are the one thing that connects them all together. The 5 elements create the unique whole.
And for those who did actually take notice in our first slide, we did talk about the yin and yang. In each one of these elements, there is a yin and yang. So that's also important when we actually consult with people. There is, you know, if somebody's a fire, has got more fire in them, there could be more of a yin, or you could be more of a yang. So that is.
So you're talking about people now?
We're talking about people now.
Because actually, that's a great little segue.
I know.
Because we give people a title. People love titles. So when we start looking now at the human behavior, because the Chinese were so clever, they worked out that if nature has a flow that works, and it does when left to its own devices, then human beings, which are a part of nature at the end of the day, if they followed the same sort of cyclical pattern in their behaviors, they will have the same result. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Human behavior, by using and understanding the elemental states of change. And believe me, when we assess people, they become gobsmacked at how much is revealed to them. It's really quite exciting and quite fun to watch every time we do it. Never gets tiring. So we have a pioneer, we have a performer, a philanthropist, a professor, a philosopher. Each of them has a different way of approaching their world and each other. But that's for another day. Keep in mind, the people is one key part of how 5 elements come into play in our world today. Of course, in Maree's little world, right, is the home. Go over
and that's the Feng Shui side of things. So and that, as you may have read in the first page as well, it talks about the 4 pillars of destiny. It's the Chinese astrology, but it's so different. Once we work out the Chinese astrology charts for an individual, and I mean an individual, I also do the home. So the home has a profile as well. So when I work out the profile of the home and the profile of the people itself, using all the 5 elements, we can actually see, okay, in your home on the Feng Shui side of things, does this person need a little bit more, a little bit more fire in their home, a little bit more earth? Do they need special rooms and all that sort of thing? Regarding children, families, animals, gardens. So the Feng Shui side of things is so important as well.
Because it's not about decorating, is it? It's about time, place, space, people, energy.
No. An interior decorator will decorate the home. I actually am an interior designer as well. So I combine the interior design and the Feng Shui in great depth. So it's quite important. Okay,
but we'll obviously, as I mentioned several times, and again, we'll be exploring each of these separately in some upcoming videos. But here's the thing, that also through Chinese medicine, the 5 elements have a great connection to the body, understanding body health. The liver, the heart, the spleen, the lungs, and the kidneys are all what we call yin organs and have an incredibly powerful function in how our body can be in balance or not in balance. Unlike the Western system that talks about what's the cure through the symptom, in the East, I talk about a balance, a whole body balance, understanding how the 5 elements play on both the physical and the mental and emotional side of a person to create balance or imbalance in their health. And what that does it mean for an individual moving forward in terms of how their life will go for them, how they will enjoy, appreciate, and embrace life. And that's a really big part of a person's day-to-day living that sometimes is ignored and forgotten. We'll also be talking about each one separately in due course.
But this is also based on what we do is, this is also based on the 4 pillars destiny.
Absolutely.
Doing our natal charts, which we go into later on, but finding out when you're born, what element, and what organs are a lot stronger and more dominating than the other. So this is where the health side comes in as well.
True. So keep in mind, so we've got the nature itself, we have the person's mindset, behaviors, cognition, we have the person's home, person's health. Now, without going into depth, we can put them together. And this won't make any sense to people who haven't seen this before. So we're not going to go deep. We'll come back to this many times in future videos. What we're saying is, as I've already said before, there are cycles. These elements aren't independent. These 5 elements work together. They can help each other. They can destroy each other. None of them is any more important than the other. They each have their role to play. Okay, so for example, there's a construction cycle, there's a destruction cycle. Okay, and how this works is fascinating. When you apply it to human behavior, it's amazing what you can determine about a person's life, isn't it? It's incredible. But there's also, not just that, there's also a way it can be used to make better. Not just to grow, like the previous slide suggests, to grow or destroy, but to transform and to make better. For example, let's pick an easy one there. Water transforms earth. For a human, what we're saying is a person who has characteristics displaying water, which might be calm, reflective, insightful, nurturing in its own way, caring, will make that difference to earth, making it richer. Because like water feeds earth to make it rich, so it becomes more productive. So too does a person who offers insight and support help a person who is a caring, nurturing person become more able to be caring and nurturing.
And what we're talking about here is water. Okay, there is a difference, and you'll probably all notice that when it rains, what happens to the earth? What happens to the gardens? What happens to everything around? It just flourishes because you're getting really the pure nourishment and the nutrients from the rainwater compared to tap water, and then some of our tap water around the world is really full of chemicals. So using in pure form, this is how one will actually nourish and transform another element.
Because at the end of the day, water is the storage or keeper of a seed. It's also the instigator of the life of that seed. But that's another topic in itself. That's interesting. So what are we really saying? Let's tie this together quickly now. We have a person. And that person in their own world thinks about the map of the world, how they see things, how they engage, react, and respond. They have their mental, emotional health, their home life and work, of course, their physical health, how they think and behave with their friends and just in their own way of doing things, their relationships. Bottom line, it's elementary. We've all heard that term, it's just elementary. Even Sherlock Holmes used that, it's elementary, Watson.
And also, you know, we often say, oh, he's in
his element.
He's in his element, or she's in
Yes,
her element.
correct.
Well, this is exactly what we're talking about. And
Well, for example, they're on fire today.
well, they're on fire today, or
They're down to
yeah, yeah.
etc., etc. But what I'm saying is, all we're talking, these 5 elements have effects on all these things. And this person, like each one of us, often doesn't even realize what's happening, because we've never had a chance for most of us to embrace this, which is what we're actually talking about. How do we get to there? Because at the end of the day, let's be honest, there's not just one person, there's hundreds of thousands of millions of people, and every one of us is different. Every one of us has our own unique mix of these elements, right? There aren't 2 people the same, particularly when you add in their health, you add in their home life, you add in where they go to work, you add in the people they associate with. We have a world of millions of people, billions of people. It's quite an amazing topic. The point is, it's all about 5 elements. And at the end of the day, what we're saying is, when you identify and employ your elemental mix, in other words, those 5 elements and their strengths and weaknesses inside you, success leads you to your genius. Okay, and that is a very important thing, because we believe very much in a person's genius, the person you were born to be and or become. Now, to do that, of course, you've had natal genius, mentioned before by Maree about natal chart. Natal genius, who you were born as, and that's a very different topic, but it involves the 5 elements. Manifested genius, who did you grow to become in response to what the world led you to be, what you thought you have to do? Okay, they both exist inside you, and they both result from the use of 5 elements and their connection to human behavior and thinking. So when you know that genius, just think how much more you can do with your life, how much more success in your relationship.
And don't forget, it's not the home and work environment that is just changing. One can actually affect the other. So in environment, you know, that you could have stress and all this sort of stuff. So that becomes mental and emotional, and then that way it can also affect your health, your organ health, and that as well. So the whole lot is all mixed together, and to find your elemental mix to see which one works better.
Yeah, so let's stop sharing that for a minute. Let's wind this up, because I'm mindful of everyone's busy. We haven't got all day to look at us talk and blab on.
Nobody wants to see
Nobody wants to see us all day long. I don't want to anyway. Anyway, the idea of this little session today was to introduce to people the concept of 5 elements. Most people don't even know there are 5, let alone that what they can do and the power they hold for us all. So this leads us to what's coming up in the next few videos. We're going to do a short video on each of the 5 elements and explore them a bit deeper than we did today, because that was very much a high-level overview, and naturally, if someone new to this was thinking, what was that all about? So we're going to go through one at a time and dig a little bit deeper over the coming videos. So if you want to know more about your genius and your genius profile and how the 5 elements work with you and your life and those that you love and work with, don't forget them. Then, of course, we invite you to join us next time as we explore the first of those 5, which is the wood element. Till then, it's bye from Maree.
And it's bye from Jeff.
Oh, that's me.
We'll see you next time.
Okay, bye now.